Hi YouTube, Gaming Guy here. I did an in-depth analysis already on your gameplay, and this is going to be an in-depth draft analysis. So if you're interested, please keep watching, and this video is for you. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is pay for an arena run, right? So that's what we're gonna do. So a lot of you guys have asked me like, hey, what classes are the best? What should I be playing? And the dual arena meta, it's really important, especially in this one because it's so volatile, that you're playing the best classes because only about half the classes are really playable and give you a chance to go infinite. And that has shifted a bit. At the start of the meta, it was like pretty staunchly Shaman, then Mage was slightly worse, and then Death Knight was slightly worse, and those were the big three players. And then there was a substantial drop off. This was last meta, but for this meta it's shifted. Rogue is now probably is the best class, and Shaman's like slightly worse, just because of all the extreme tempo and mostly all the mana cheat things you can do with Rogue. Tempo and cheating out as much mana as you can in a turn is really how you win games. So for this one, the classes you're looking for now are really Mage, Shaman, or Rogue for your first three. Hopefully you can pick one of those. And Death Knight, not Death, Death Knight, I think has fallen off a bit, and Demon Hunter has climbed to have a respectable. It's now kind of playable, and it wasn't playable last meta. But that being said, this is one of the top three, so we're gonna pick Thrall.
Fire. Heed my call.
Now, the second best hero is what you want to pick here, and you want to consider your hero power and how it works with your class. So for Rogue, if you picked Rogue first, and then you don't have like an attacking, like Rogue Priest probably isn't as strong as Rogue Druid would be, or Rogue Shaman, or just anything that has weapons, Rogue Warrior, for example. So you want your classes to work together well. I think Druid is pretty B tier, and it can, if you high roll anything, it can be great. Priest is probably about as strong as Druid. I still prefer, and I think Death Knight, because of cards like Soul Stealer, is still like probably A tier. I wouldn't call it S tier anymore, but we're gonna pick the two strongest classes so we can have the highest chance of winning. And you can look the rates up of class win percentage on our HS replay, and the add-on we're using is called Firestone. So that's where I'm getting the data, and the draw impact and the deck impact is like how much of an impact is this going to have when it's strong, how good is it specifically for your deck, and they do some math calculations that they explain here to give it a green with being good versus red being bad number for your specific deck and options. So this is a pretty simple pick here. Oh, and now this is a good point, something I wanted to say. Just the generic guidelines that I kind of mentioned before in my other videos, so please subscribe and consider checking those out for like a gameplay analysis video, just for like what are the best cards videos. I've made those videos. This is my first like deep dive draft video for this meta. But what I mentioned before and what's good practice is just you really want to probably just pick the card that is the best for like your first 10. And then those 10 cards usually push you into a certain archetype that you want to figure out, being, am I playing an aggressive deck, a medium deck, or a slow deck? Like aggro, tempo, control is kind of how I classify those in my head. It's like kind of common vernacular for Hearthstone. So after your first like third of the deck, you've kind of been pushed towards a certain type of play style, and that's how you can make the closer calls matter. So here, it's not even close. Headless Horseman is by far the best card, so we're going to take it. So these ones are a little bit closer, and you want to think about what each card does and how much mana it costs and what's like pretty effective. So the best card is Wave of Nostalgia, but Wave is a card that requires other things into your deck to be good. You like a lot of token spammer types cards, like the something block, the deal 2, get 2 froggies, for example, or maybe you have a hunter card that is the 6 rust beast that fills the board. Sorry that I'm not like super great with the card names. I'm better about remembering what they do. But anything, the general idea is, do you have a lot of tokens in your deck? Because this card is good when you can spam cheap tokens and then cast it. So you have more stuff on your side than your opponent has on his side, and it can almost hopefully be a pseudo text, assuming you don't get too unlucky. Now, since this is kind of a weak pick and it's early, I know I said generically pick the 10 best cards, and this is the best card. I'm already going to go away from that because I think it's easier for me to have something that's not super strong in the like 1 to 2 range and even 3 range of mana cost than the more expensive. I want the more expensive for plus cards to hopefully be higher tier quality, if that makes sense, because it's a lot less punishing if you have like a basic turn on turn 2. Hopefully you can actually play something, because a lot of times you just get unlucky and you can't. So there's more forgiveness than if you have like a generic, for example, the 6/6 card that gives a copy with spell damage, which is kind of hard to do these days. If you play a 6/6 for 6 in this meta, you're probably losing unless you already are winning substantially on board. So playing a 3/1 with stealth on 2, you're not really losing. And it trades with a lot of the cards you need to kill, and it's hard to kill because it has stealth. So we're going to take that. So, wow. I'm glad that we're getting... something I was a little bit worried about is a lot of times in this meta, unfortunately, there's, like our first pick, there's just one great card and the other two suck. So it's not that interesting to talk about. But right off the bat, our second and third picks are very interesting, and this is a close call. This card is very good in this meta, and that's one of the reasons since this card is like S tier for Death Knight, I have been drafting and trying to get a little more silences, because it just gets destroyed by silence. And then we have a very good AoE clear. So something to consider with the Corpse Spenders, we actually have a Corpse Generator hero power. This card would be a lot less good if we were Death Knight than Shaman, because we're not immediately gaining a corpse and dealing 1 damage to something when we spend it. We have to wait for... We spend 2 mana, it stays on the board, which is, I guess, maybe could be a little more powerful, but it's slower because we have to wait for our opponent to kill it, unless it's a Searing Totem, to gain the corpse. So... because this is, I think this card is stronger. I don't know, this is close, but having a good AoE is something that I don't think is less common to find than having just a generically good card like Minion. I think this is easier to find, and this is harder to find, so we're going to take the answer that's harder to find that we might need. This is not the most exciting pick. But again, since we took Corpse Explosion already, and this is a playable 1-drop with okay stats, and it gains a corpse, I think it has the most synergy for our deck. The spell damage is quote-unquote maybe nice, but, you know, I think it's probably stronger overall to play this on 1, gain a corpse, and then we're already at 2 corpses, and we have the 2/3 effect. The +1 spell damage might potentially be nice if we find like a lightning storm, but that's just much weaker in my opinion. So I'm gonna take the bagger there. The handler is just a solid 2-drop. It's like nice that we're getting S tier cards early. It's much easier, especially in this meta, to play from ahead than behind. Also, it's a good card to like help combat the substantial disadvantage from going second in a lot of in most decks, except for like a few specific mage cards you might actually prefer to go second. But in general, the first versus second disparity is pretty big right now, so it's a card that helps combat that. That's why it's rated so well. Something I've talked about that I think is important for specifically when you go second, to help you actually be able to get past maybe most of your runs, and a lot of mine as well are going like 2 to 5 wins, and you can't like really get to that 7, that 9, that 12 win range. 12 is really, really freaking hard right now because of how volatile the meta is, and there's so many gacha cards that just destroy you unless you have an answer. But one of the easiest ways to die is just go second, take like 15 chip damage from going second, from your opponent having the initiative, and just being able to smork you down, and then they have some random combination of finishers, and then you're just sad you didn't really get to play. So the way to extend those games, and I think it's more important and kind of overlooked, is to have healing built into your deck for those games when you're not going first. So I really like Tidal Wave. I like the Volcano card, the Paladin 3/2 Rush. Just healing is very good for when you're going second, so you can extend into the late game and actually play a game of Hearthstone. Malted Mana, Magma is super great. The other two, this isn't very interesting. Just pick the best card. This is one of those buckets I was alluding to earlier. So this is a bit curious. We already have a Tidal Wave, and it's expensive. So I do think healing's important, and we already have 3 AOE's. So this is the best card. But because we already have 3 different cards that do the same thing, I'm going to pick an early game damage card that lets me, dredge, which is pick my next draw from 3 options. So I think this card does something different. It kind of contests board early. We don't really need the AoE. The healing is nice, but I don't want 2 super expensive heals. Because it would be terrible if I have 2 of these in hand, and it's like turn 6, and we've already used coin. We're at like 12 HP, and instead of having something playable, maybe like a taunt or some way to contest to get to turn 8 and use this, and then maybe win the game, we just die because we have too many expensive heals instead of having like a generically good curve. The old school adage of trying to have like a curve that is pretty balanced and even, so you're having a strong turn every turn, is pretty important. So that's something that you want to look at. You want to have a decent number of plays. A good rule of thumb for 2 and 1 combined is at least 6, and then like maybe 6 3 drops, 6 4 drops, and then 5 is like less. So you maybe need like 3 of these, maybe 3 of these, and like 4, whatever's like left over, given how many of those you hit. So this is a medium tier removal plus healing, so that's awesome. Very strong card. I think I'm going to take the 2-drop. This card is strong and good, but if we go first and play it, we're a little sad, especially against hero powers that deal 1 damage, because essentially we don't really do anything. This has stealth, and we can wait and try to get a free hero power and gain a corpse, so I kind of like this better. Okay, again, we're just going to take the best card here, plus we don't have a lot of 6s. I like how this draft is going so far. We have a lot of things to do early, which is very important to not get ran over. We have some AoEs, and so we're just looking for some beefy good cards to play in like these manas. And this is a very good card, because it has like rush and heals. And it can even go face, too, if they don't have a board. Do we want to take the Stitch or the Delinquent? The animatronic is not great. If it could only kill enemies, it would be very, very good. But because it can kill your own stuff, you like have to be losing, and it doesn't have a lot of stats, and it's only killing 1 thing, potentially. So it's pretty weak for 5. Like if it did those effects for cheaper, it'd be more forgiving. I think I'm gonna take the Silk Stitchling. We already have a Delinquent. It does something different. And hopefully we can discover something potentially useful. And we can combo and get this spell out for on turn 4 immediately if we need it, because of our hero power. Guess we'll take another Handler. It's by far the best card. Ooh, okay. So, Wish Upon a Star, I like both of these cards. We do need 3 drops. Like, pretty badly. But this card is such a great card that I don't want to... Like, this is one of the best 3s that you can get from its effect and its stats. But this spell is just super winning. If you cast this and then everything in your deck, all of our cheap shit is then like this thing would become what for 1 mana, 3/6. So for example, like all of our entire deck just gets stronger. And the way you want to use this card, hopefully you have something on the board on your turn 7, and then it gets buffed on board, and then it's not like you kind of skip the turn. So I'm gonna take the Wish Upon a Star because it's very good. We do need to find 3 drops, but I think we will find them. We still have 16 cards to pick from. Our early game's looking pretty solid. We just need like maybe one more. With this weapon, we don't really need that much more early game, so I'm gonna be like only wanting to take the very best cards like this for early. We don't have a hero power, so this guy isn't like, it's not like we have rogue hero power, so this guy's not super exciting. We can get spell damage, which is very good with the Malted Magma, and can be good with Death Strike, Corpse Explosion, etc. There we go. Since we don't deal 1, the Elemental is like very premium. It just helps us, especially if we have this weapon, then we're dealing 2. Turn 5, we can deal 2 to 2/2/2, so it's definitely the best card, and it's extra good in cases where your hero power doesn't deal 1. I mean, ours does, but even so, like, it's very good. This card's just a bit broken. If we need to try to, if we're losing, this card's like amazing. So you could try to set up okay, like we're losing too much. They have 20 health, we have 8 on board. Play this guy, freeze everything, and then set up a lethal on board. Maybe they don't have taunt and healing, and you can steal a game. And it always steals a turn of tempo, so it's just very powerful. Happy we got that card. So we got pretty good spells to find, especially like Wish Upon a Star, Tidal Wave are 2 great ones, Corpse Explosion, so Malted Magma, or Death Strike. Having a second one of any of those 4s spells is super great. Plus, it's very cheap. On like turn 9, we can buff it too. We could cast Wish Upon a Star, play this guy, and then cast another one the previous turn. There we go. A very good 3-drop, and we need 3, 4, and 5. So our mid and late game's looking fine to me, because we have the Horsemen to like supplement, and then we have the good spells. So I just want like playable shit in the mid game. So it's either Soul Breaker or Freeze. I mean, this card's great, but again, this gains corpses, and we have Corpse Explosion, and it's slightly better, and it has synergy with the hero attacking stuff with the Wind Fury. There's decent synergy. I like that it gains corpses. Horizon's Edge is just super broken. These 2 aren't even close to as good, so just take the broken card. Same thing here with the Helm of Humiliation. And this is even better because a lot of our cards are cheap. So we could remove something on like turn 5 and then play it, if it hits here, play a giant fucking 1-drop. I like the Knight Captain. It's pretty solid. It's if it hits, and something that I learned in game that you might not know is, say you attack a 3/2, or no, a 3/3 or a 4/3 or whatever. Yeah, it'd be a 4/3. If this attacks a 4/3, its honor kill expect goes off and saves it from dying, even though it only had 3 HP before it attacked. It would be a 6/2 if it attacked into a 4/3. So it's not. It has, after the honor kill thing persists even after the battle cry. Don't really have any Murlocs. This card's okay, but we have like the turn 3 is I think more important, and I like setting up my next 3 turns. It's pretty good. The stats aren't great. This card is a little bit better, but not much. So we need 3-drops more, and the effect is pretty useful to plan out our next, to try to have something that's very powerful to do right now If you can have a good strong turn from turn 1 to turn 6, you're probably A, winning, 2, and B, the game might almost be over. And like, as long as you don't have a turn where you like kind of skip the turn or don't do anything, that tempo style can just carry, and that's how you can easily rack up some wins. And this card helps you do that, even though its stats aren't that great. Perfect. We need a 5-drop. It's got good value. Plus it's a taunt. So these other two cards are like half as good. Not terrible, but not great. So this is a one where Feral Spirit is the best card, but I don't really like that it overloads. So it's fine that it does overload, and not all overload cards are bad. A lot of them are good, and this card is a decent card. It is the best card. But specifically within this deck, I don't like it. Because right now, we don't want to have more than one turn 3. So if we play this on turn 3, the odds are our next turn 3, which would be our turn 4, is then going to suck because we're only going to have 3 mana, and we don't have a lot of strong things to do on turn 3. Our turn 4 is looking decent, and beyond that's looking fine, and our 1s and 2s are looking good. But so what I'd rather do is get our potentially the high roll on here. We have 2 super expensive spells. If we can cast a Wish Upon a Star on turn 6, people know, and the good players kind of think about what's possible, and they try to play around certain cards. Casting this as turn early, or this one, same thing, it can catch them off guard and be game winning. So I like how this synergizes with our deck more than the other ones. Plus, the Horizon's Edge is also super broken with our specific hero power, because we can always activate it to refresh it if it's not up. So we're gonna just take another one. And I'm very happy. Melty is pretty useful, but I feel like we'll be okay because we found good early game. So the Melty is not as needed, even though it is needed, and I would pick it if this card wasn't here. But I think we need some like beefy stuff to play late. Khadgar's still in, so we'll just take the 3/4. And we still get a Melty Mental. So everything that I wanted to kind of get, we ended up getting. And that's why typically, like some minor tips as we close out the draft. If you're looking at cards that are close and one's like an epic card and the other one's common, for exactly like common or even rare, you're more likely to see a common card again than an epic card. And you only get the 3 legendaries at the beginning. So probably if it's very close and you don't know which one to pick, just pick the one that's epic and or like that's a higher tier rarity if it's really really close. Also, over picking the same card again, I would rather, if it's very close and they kind of do the same thing, I'd rather have 2 different cards, because then you have more options, and having lots of options in Arena is king. It depends on the situation. The cards that we have 2 of, they weren't up against anything that was even close to as good. And this has great synergy in our deck and with our hero power. I'm really happy we got the Meltamental, because I wanted both of those cards on the last pick. But I really don't feel like this card will shine as much, because as it does in other decks, it's still a great card, because one of our weaknesses is not worrying about getting ran over early in this deck. It might happen. Anything can happen in Hearthstone. But this deck has strong early presence, strong mid presence, and it's a little bit light on the late presence. So I think it's good enough because we account for that with Wish Upon a Star and our Headless Horseman hero power. But it's kind of basically this is, I would classify it as a tempo deck. So it's like we're kind of medium tier. We're not really looking to slow the game down and win super late and have the games go super long, although we still can, depending on what happens. And there isn't like a lot of discoverable cards that make us win in fatigue games where we draft 30 cards, but we can easily play 50 before, if we played every card that we discover, for example. So hopefully all of that makes sense and is useful to you, and we'll close out the draft with the Meltamental. If you want to see how this run ends up going, I'm going to be streaming this deck, and I'll have a link to the stream in about a few hours. So I'll be streaming in a few hours, and I'll have a link to the stream, and you can just start the stream, click on the link, and you can watch the run if you're interested in that. If not, then hopefully this helps you with your picks and kind of get a good arena mindset on how the goals and how you can improve. And there's other videos that can help you that I've already posted with your gameplay, and also with knowing which cards are a little bit more broken as well. So you can check those out. Again, I'm Gaming Guy. I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed the content, let me know down below. If you like this style, there's other things you would like to see, please tell me. And if you really enjoyed the video, give it a like and consider subscribing. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one.